So what do you do when people only want to talk about problems? That's a great question because it happens a lot. Again, not because people are bad, but because people are in that habit of believing that problems are real. And they are real. The thing is, talking about problems isn't enough. You have to be able to also see, because when you talk about what you don't want, and problems are all in the category of what you don't want, without also talking about what you do want, it's not possible to move in the direction of what you want. And so you have to develop in communities and in individuals a competence to really articulate what they do want and to do it concretely enough, because what we want is also interpreted. You know, you may say, I want a happy community or a community that works for kids, and your interpretation of what that looks like may be very different from what I see. So it's also important for people not only to articulate big ideas, but to articulate clearly what those ideas look like in practice for them so that they're on the same page. I was once doing a piece of consulting work overseas where a tenants union in a housing project was really come to blows with the housing authority in the local municipality. And it was about to become a big public embarrassment because they were going into stage 2 of the housing development the following week and wanted to have a big sort of debut of the project. And the tenants union was really intending to embarrass the local municipality at that opening. And so I was called in as a kind of mediator between these groups. And in the first instance, I went out and visited the tenants union to understand what their perspective is. But then I got both groups in the room. And at the beginning of the meeting, just nobody had anything nice to say about each other. And the trust had broken down, and it had broken down for really good reasons. I mean, people had made a lot of mistakes, and people had done things which had really eroded the trust and deserved to have eroded the trust. And you can't get trust back on demand. So what I ended up doing was creating a tool where whenever people would say something angry about what they were disappointed about, I would write that down and say, okay, anger's fine. It shows that it's an energy. It says things need to be different. So I'm listening to this, and I'm going to write down what you said. They don't listen. But I also need to understand what it is you want. So, if you can tell me as clearly as you can what it is you want that would make things better, then maybe we can move forward. And so we created a grid where you had, where we are now, where we want to go, and then another kind of tick box that said, how would you know when you're there, an indicator, concrete indicator. But then I added 2 other columns to that grid, which was a green shoots column that says, when you look around now, are there any instances at all that say, I know that thing that we want is possible because at least in this one instance, it's actually already happening, even if it's a small example. And then the other important piece is you hear in these conversations, but, that's never going to happen, the thing I want. But, they don't even have a structure in city council to listen to us. And I would say, okay, let's take that but, that's local knowledge, turn it into a question that moves in the direction of what you want. So the question becomes perhaps something like, how can we create structures within the city council meetings that will give us a time that our concerns can always be heard at every meeting. And I gave each team, these opposing teams, the chance to each get clear, if they wanted to start with a problem, then to articulate what they wanted. If they wanted to start with a vision, to articulate where they were, and then to fill in those other columns, the questions that would move them in that direction, the green shoots breaking in, and the indicators. And when they came back and looked at each other's lists, they actually managed to find a place to begin. But holding these current realities and aspirations together